Life with Tommy.
Dr. Bonnke Shipalana, founder and chairman of the Leadership Academy, The Power of One, is at heart a family man with a passion for golfing and the divine. Using your spiritual center as the core to success, he writes and speaks on leading from your soul. From the age of 19, Bonnke Shipalana has been inspiring South Africans to believe and understand their purpose and raison d'être. Welcome, Bonnke.
Thank you, Tammy.
How impressive. At 19, you already knew what you were wanting to achieve out of life?
Not really. I understood where I was going. In life, I learned that you don't need to know the end, you need to know the why. And I understood what I wanted to do, and I took a step, and the Power of One came into life.
And how would you describe what it is that you do?
There are three questions that one needs to ask himself. One is, what pisses me off? What is it in this world that makes me so angry that I'm going to wait for my neighbor, my cousin, my dad to do it? I am going to do it myself. And if you look at all our leaders, the Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they never waited for their friends. They said, listen, if this need be, I'll die for it.
Yes.
And for me, I really got pissed off when I saw young people not being leaders, young people not following their passion, young people taking the easy route out. And I said, I need to make a difference. So that was one. Number two, you ask yourself, what is it that makes me happy? What is it that after doing just gives me that joy, that
ecstasy?
That ecstasy that I know I just want to sing every single day.
You missed your calling. You should have. I hear a bit of an operatic voice vibrato going on there.
And if the answer to both questions is the same, then you're in the right direction. It's something that hurts you, but when you solve it, you feel happy. And once you get that right, then you're in the right direction. And for me, once I started doing that, I just felt like a better Bonnke. Every single day became a new bright day.
So it's the kind of thing that you say, I cannot live with this, and I cannot live without this.
Yeah.
And in order to have it, I then have to create it. And I need to be a catalyst for that change. And for you, that passion is leadership in young people.
Yeah.
What do you think is missing? What is not there? That X factor, that ingredient that needs to be there in order to get our youth to become leaders and to be groomed to be leaders?
The key in being a leader is servanthood. Being a leader means being a servant.
And that's a hard thing to accept.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're a young person, if you think about being a leader, you're immediately going to think about being the boss.
Yeah.
Which means that you're going to be the one doing the least, which means that everybody's going to be at your beck and call for a lot of people. And I guess that's a hard thing to accept, that it's about being a servant.
Yeah. There are two levels to it. Number one, you must serve under someone's mission. The Bible calls it submission. Submission. There's someone that...
Under a mission.
Under a mission. That's what it means. So you need to serve under someone to understand what it means to be a servant and what it means to be a leader. So that the day you become a leader, you don't forget about servanthood. That's one. Secondly, it's understanding that you're on earth to serve others. I'm a CEO of a company. I've got 22, 23 staff members. But every single day, I see myself as a channel that God had planted in these people's life to be able to pay their bonds, school fees, and car payments. So if I don't come to work, I'm actually doing something wrong in their lives. So leadership is all about servanthood. And if our youth had to understand that every single morning when you wake up, you're not there to be the boss, but you're there to be used, then they'll be on the right path.
It sounds to me like mentorship is a huge part of this journey towards leadership, first self-leadership and then leadership of others. There's submission. You have to submit under someone.
Mission.
Who have been your mentors? Who have you submitted under?
One, my dad. I've been very fortunate that my dad is a pastor, and I've seen him serve other people since I was born. And every single day I used to see this guy working hard. There was a year where I calculated out of 52 weeks in a year, he was only home, I think, 3 weekends. Every weekend is either a funeral, a wedding, preaching here, visiting so and so and so. So I saw someone who people perceived as a big individual submitting himself to God. So that was one. Number two, my current CEO, Given Curry. He's one guy who, what he dreams about, he actually does something about it.
He is a vision implementer.
Yeah, what he dreams about, he does something about it. And when you see someone who used to work on radio, now owning a radio station, you ask yourself, what's there that is impossible? So those two individuals have actually given me direction and something to look up to.
What I find interesting about your choice of mentors is that, yes, one is your senior, your dad, but the other one is very much your peer because you're pretty much the same age.
Yeah. When it comes to servanthood or leadership, age doesn't count. It's all about who has been blessed to bless you. And if you're together right in terms, there are certain individuals in this planet who are planted to bless you. They're not the blessing, but they're the channel to your blessing. And age doesn't count. Sometimes, I'm a father, I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and there's so many things I'm learning about life and about myself from my 4-year-old daughter.
Yes.
So age doesn't really play a role.
And what has marriage taught you?
Marriage taught me to know who I am before I try and influence other people.
Wow.
In my life, I've been married for 5 years, and every single day I learn about myself. I learn that as a man, I do care. As a man, I do cry. As a man, I have to play on the ground. As a man, I have to roll on the floor and play with my kids. So it has revealed the Bonnke that was covered. And I think my kids have opened my eyes to a soulful person.
Your relationship with God, I understand that you grew up in a religious, spiritual family. But now you've really taken it as part of your own identity.
Sure.
How does that serve you, and how is that part of your greater mission?
The one question that my grandfather asked me when I was 17 on my way to varsity, one simple question that changed my life and my view about religion and Christianity and my relationship with God was, Bonnke, if you're not born, what will the world have lost? And he was not referring to a title, he was talking about value. What is about you that the world appreciates? And he said, when you come back from varsity, that's what I want you to come and tell me. Don't tell me about your degree, don't tell me about your qualification. I just want to know one thing that is already in you that this life is going to help open up. And from that day, I realized that there's a voice that I need to listen to. And that voice is God. And it takes time, it takes experience, it takes suffering to actually listen and have a clear understanding of what the voice is instructing you to do.
How do you listen?
Meditate, read. I spend a lot of time reading the Bible. I spend a lot of time listening to preachers. I always say that I have moved from trying to feed the flesh to satisfy the soul to feeding the soul to satisfy the flesh. So I decide when I'm driving, am I going to listen to A or B? And what's the purpose of listening to A or B? And most of the time, I spend time listening to inspirational messages. And through that, there's that voice that actually explains what the person is saying. It's not what the person is saying that is important. It's the explanation that comes in. And no one else can give that explanation except that soft voice within.
Life with Tommy. Life with Tommy.
Previously on Life with Tommy, Dr. Bonnke Shipalana shares a couch and his secrets to leading from the inside out. If I had to say to you, in a nutshell, how would you describe yourself, your nature?
In simple English, I say I'm a businessman, but I'm also in the business of men. I'm there to create wealth, but I'm also there to create or build or help people to discover their purpose. I think that if one does not know his or purpose, then it's hard for you to actually find direction. For me, purpose is like keying direction on GPS. You really have to be specific. I'm going to 170 Fox Street. You can't say 170 and not mention the street. You can't say Fox without mentioning 170. I'm sure there are quite a number of Fox Streets in South Africa. You really need to be specific. And once you key in the right coordinates, that lady, I call her Martha, that Martha is going to direct
Susan.
you, Susan. But the amazing thing about GPS is that if you're driving a long distance and you say, let's say you're going to Polokwane, it will only direct you coming out of Joburg, but for the next 200 kilometers, it keeps quiet.
Wow.
And that's when you have to believe that the same voice I had at the beginning, even though now I'm driving through the wilderness, I don't see anything, it's costing me toll gates, I'm still in the right direction. It will only talk to you when you're about 2 kilometers away. It says, in the next 200 meters, take a left.
And that is the walk of faith.
Yeah.
That is the walk that when you feel within your spirit that this is who I am, that this is my purpose, this is how I can add value, you go with that.
You go with it.
And I think the problem with us is that we want reassurance.
Every day.
Every single step of the way.
Yeah.
We want people to be giving you accolades. Oh, you're doing so well. Oh, you're such a great
Well
boy,
done,
Bonnke. You're such a great
Well
boss.
done,
son. and we want those accolades and that reassurance.
Yeah.
And that is actually
Yakbaizisa, that thing.
Misleading him.
You know, yakbaizisa, because you end up looking right and left.
Yeah.
But the thing is, be confident, because you were
voice.
told,
Yeah.
you heard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So now allow yourself to be guided
Yeah.
until the next detour,
Until the next
the
detour.
next turn.
To young people who, you spend a whole year listening to this teacher teaching a particular subject, but there's that 3 hours where he is not allowed to talk to you. And if he makes a mistake and talks to you, then it's game over. During exam time, the teacher is not allowed to speak to you. And in life, you need just to believe in what you were taught, believe in what you have learned. And when the exam comes in, don't look at the teacher and say, please help me. You have to sit and write. And only by passing that exam, where the teacher is not actually giving you feedback right there, can be promoted to the next level.
And a huge important part of that learning and what you were taught is your own introspection. Yes, you get whatever you get from the world outside, but as you said earlier on, through that meditation, through that introspection, and what our previous guests were talking about as well, getting to know yourself, you get your own internal compass.
That the only way in this world to survive is not to try and change the world, it's to try and change yourself. And changing yourself requires you to know yourself, requires you to criticize yourself, requires you to sit down and cry. And let the old person die, let go, and let God be. And most of us, we have allowed external factors to define us. Bonnke, the CEO, Bonnke, the BCom graduate. Those things can disappear.
Bonnke, the golf player.
Bonnke, the golf player, the next Tiger Woods. Those things can disappear.
Not.
But what's inside you is what's going to remain. And the Bible always says that I'm going to make your name known, not you. And your name, my surname Shipalana carries a certain legacy. So people need to know that legacy, need to know that thing within, that even when you're dead, still remains and is alive. And most of the time we forget it. We want to build things that define the external factors. But if you're to cut Bonnke into pieces, it's a body. Put him together. You call it a person because of the soul or the spirit. You take 4 walls and put them in one line. In African English, you call it stop nonsense. Take the 4 walls, put them together, suddenly call it a room because of the space. So space or soul is critical in defining something.
So your legacy is not you. Your legacy is your fragrance.
Yeah.
What you leave behind.
Values.
The aroma
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah.
When you walk into a room, do people light up? Do you inspire them? Do you give them hope?
Yeah.
Do they feel that they can because you have? Or do you walk into a room and others are like,
Oh, God. It's amazing that once a year we all take 67 minutes to do something good. Why? Because of Mandela. It's not because of him, it's because of what he stands for, what he represents. And people take time of their busy schedule to do it. And I hope that if people take time to discover their soul, that thing on its own has got more power than any billionaire can do in the world.
applying your faith. You've got 2 volumes so far.
Yep.
What inspired this and what is it all about?
Applying your faith is based on the Bible. It's all about stop praying only, pray and do.
Hey, uzayithola kanjani mhlele khona now always say that.
That's from one amazing professor called Mendoza.
Yes.
At the end of the day, if you want a mango tree, you have to plant a mango seed. You can't just pray, oh God, can I have a mango, can I have a mango? You have to do something. And all I'm saying to people there is that for you to have faith, you must have hope. There must be something that you hope for and you must start acting towards that. The payoff line of the book says, do the ordinary and expect the extraordinary. Mm-hmm. There is no way that you can just be extraordinary. If you want to be promoted at work, the simplest thing you can do is to go to work on time.
Yes.
Do your part, you'll get promoted. You want to pass your exam, come to class,
or even
write
better,
your
get
homework.
there early.
Get there early. You have to do something for this extraordinary to happen. And if you do the ordinary, you're ordinary. God comes in with the extra, with the super, makes you supernatural, extraordinary. And we're saying to people, just do something. You can't just sit there and hope that heaven is going to drop on your lap. You have
and
to
hope
do,
that you're, faith without acts, without
means
works,
zero.
means absolutely nothing.
Means zero. So the book is taking them through a journey of certain experiences that we have gone through, but teaches them that in life you have to do something. And also when you do something, we're not going to lie and say everything's going to be up and running. There are times when challenges are going to come in. How do you deal with those challenges? How do you remain strong? And what verses in the Bible do you use to meditate on for you to remain strong?
Absolutely amazing. What is the bedrock of your faith? Where do you gravitate to when you're feeling like you need something to fill you up, something that you can just hold on to? It is important to have whatever belief system, something that you know for sure, tried and tested. It will allow you to tap into the greatness within yourself. We'll be right back after this break.
Life with Tommy. Life with Tommy.
In a world that constantly tries to tell you who you are, what to do, what not to do, and tries to set standards for you and your life, it has become all the more important for us to introspect, to take time for ourselves and discover who we really are. And only then are we able to be a sweet fragrance to those around us. We've had amazing, amazing guests today, all authors, all talking from your own personal experiences. But just to round off, Robin, how would you say one can bring out the best in themselves?
You need to do what you love and what you're passionate about, so that passion's coming through and it drives you. I think you need to spend time in solitude, like you mentioned, so that you connect with who you really are. And then for me, I think the simplest but most profound is to be in the moment. Because when you're present, all of your intelligence kicks in and the best you just comes through.
And you're able to adapt and go with the flow. I guess that's really what it means. Go with the flow, whatever the universe brings into your life.
To be responsive and responsible, so that you're actually responding consciously rather than reacting unconsciously.
Which brings us to your life story, you know, where you reached a point where you're like, enough reacting now. This is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. And then you effected a change. How can women and even men who've been through traumatic situations in their lives still bring out the best in themselves and believe in the essence and the core of who they really are?
For me, I mean, it's any time in life that I see someone having what I call a knee-jerk response to circumstances, to the environment, that's the time when you need to go within and ask yourself the question, you know, why am I reacting like this? Who taught me this? Where did I learn this? And does it work for me? And the other question, big question for me is, if I continue on this path, where will I end up?
And a lot of the times, if you ask yourself that question and it's not an answer that you like, you know that you definitely need some divine intervention. All your life, divine intervention. What is the final parting shot that you'd like to give to our viewers?
I think for me, believe in your source. Believe in your author more than you believe in yourself. From a biblical point of view, when God wanted to create a fish, he spoke to the water. When he wanted to make animals and plants, he spoke to the soil. But he wanted to make me and you, he spoke to himself. Fish can't live outside water.
I love
and
that.
plants can't live without soil. So I take myself back to God every time I doubt stuff. And I've learned that even though sometimes I still believe in myself, if I want to know issues in my life, I pray about everything else.
Oh, I absolutely love that. When he wanted to create man, he looked at himself. Breath of his very own breath. What are your dreams and wishes? What are your aspirations? What is the biggest possible life that you can dream for yourself? What are the shackles that you want to break free from? Paint the picture. Live in the vision. Bring the future here, right now. Here are some of your Facebook and Twitter comments about your dreams, your aspirations, and how you can become the very best of yourself.
Ubusi has spent a lot of time resenting people that did her wrong in the past. But since letting go of her past, she's now focusing on what lies ahead instead. Precious's dream is to study towards a BSc in microbiology, while Hilda wants to get a permanent job, get married, have children, buy a house, and have a nice car. Mutlokwa says, my biggest dream is to become a teacher, a motivator, and writer so that I can be able to lead the youth of my hometown in Ngutu.
Today has been about pearls of wisdom here, there, and everywhere. I know that there's something that spoke to you directly. Yes, it is your personal journey. Yes, it is your life story, but we are in this together. May you go out there and find your peace. May you go out there and reconnect with yourself and be a gift to the world. May you go out there and create the life that you want to live. Until we meet again, you be blessed.
To order a copy of this or any other episode of Life with Tommy, email us at orders@lifewithtommy.co.za or drop us a message on Facebook.
with Tommy.